Click it. Click it.
Hey everybody, my name is Tony Jungueras. I'm from CrowdRx. CrowdRx started in June when my friend Justin Kreitz here decided he wanted a psychology student joined a medical call center. If you don't know what that is, that's where doctors, nurses, and patients call to try to reach one another. He realized it ran a lot like a 1950s call center. And I mean, basically he calls me up, my friend Lucario, and he's like, you guys, this is something we need to fix, it's broken. I said, wow, that seems like an easy fix. So we go ahead and we make something in the next few days we made something in the next few days. It was better, faster, and cheaper than the current solution. We thought that'd be an easy sell. We were very wrong. Turns out healthcare is it's extremely difficult to make even the slightest of change. Yeah. It's extremely difficult to make a small change in healthcare. But we did find one thing. If you want to make a good product in healthcare, doctors have to value your product. Now that might seem simple, but in reality, a doctor doesn't like most products that involves him taking time out of his day to use. And so there's a lot of things out there that doctors just don't use because of that. Fortunately, we think we found something that they do want to use, and I'm glad I'd be happy to tell you about it. Imagine it's 4 in the morning at the ER. Dr. Smith is 12 hours into her shift, and a patient is rushed in. The medics think he has a stroke. Stroke's a pretty serious business. There's 700,000 Americans each year that are affected by a stroke. And usually when you're affected by a stroke, you're in a fight against time, where the losers are usually disabled for their entire life. One of the first steps in diagnosing stroke is a CT scan. That lets the doctor figure out exactly whether or not this patient does have a stroke. Next is an MRI, and that takes somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes. MRIs take up a lot of time, and that's a lot of time wasted. After the MRI results come in, Dr. Smith can see these results, identify the kind of stroke, and start deliberating the best medical intervention. The deliberation process needs to be carried out quickly. Unfortunately, there's a lot of factors that go into this. Age, sex, weight, height, ethnicity, blood pressure, the time the patient was lasting normal. All these things are factors that Dr. Smith really needs to carefully consider. Because if she messes up and chooses the wrong intervention, the patient could be disabled for life. Could be disabled for life. So put yourself in her shoes. Imagine in front of you, you have the patient's medical information, you're sifting through it, you're trying to evaluate the importance of every single factor. And meanwhile, you're trying to think of where this patient fits in with all the other stroke victims. And at the same time, you know you have to pick something quickly or else you could really hurt this patient. That's why it's no surprise that doctors usually go with the most general intervention. Whereas TPA, the only clinically proven intervention, is used on only about 8% of patients. Whereas up to 25% of patients are actually eligible. What this means is there's a lot of patients that aren't getting the best treatment. And these poor decisions create poor outcomes. And poor outcomes create big ripple effects. For example, for the patient, these are kind of obvious. The patient's going to be worse off health-wise. It's going to have to pay a lot more money because they're in the hospital more time, medicine, that sort of thing. What isn't so obvious is the effects that poor outcomes have on hospitals. Consider that nearly 2/3 of stroke victims have to be readmitted at a hospital. Now consider that healthcare reform is actually withholding 1% of Medicare reimbursements to that hospital, and it's withholding 1% of Medicare reimbursements to that hospital, and you really need to get a sense for that what that 1% means. Here in Austin, that 1% is $550,000 in Seton. Then that's about double for all of Austin. When you consider the entire U.S. market, it's $280 million. That's how much Medicare has charged hospitals this year alone. That only accounts for 30% of all hospitals in the United States. that receive Medicare reimbursements. New legislation plans to increase the number of hospitals affected and the percent cut that they're going to take away. The reason for this is quite simple. Medicare pays out $17.5 billion every single year in hospital readmission rates. So we saw this problem and decided to fix it at the source, making the doctor's decision-making process a lot easier and faster. To do this, CrowdRx uses big data based off of thousands of stroke patients and off of their outcomes and information. We analyze the current stroke patient and spit back the numbers to help the doctor generate the best decision. In Dr. Smith's case, as soon as her patient's tagged for a stroke, we start analyzing all the data, and as she's taking scans and tests, we get a better picture of what's going on. It looks something like this. On the left-hand side, you see the medication we recommend, and on the right-hand side, you see the likelihood as a percentage of where we see this patient 3 months down the road. Doctors are loving this. It makes their job a lot easier in the stroke room, and here's just what one of them had to say. CrowdRx could be truly revolutionary in its efforts to bring real medical data and put it in physicians' hands at the bedside. If the concept proves successful, it will take a significant amount of guesswork out of the stroke intervention treatment and benefit patients with real-time informed decisions. That's Dr. John Saber, he's a trauma surgeon here in town. Our current revenue model is to allow hospitals to use our service for free, and we'll just take a cut off of the increased revenue, the increased reimbursements they get off of better readmission numbers. Currently, we are looking for research grants and medical professionals to join our scientific advisory board. We're CrowdRx, and we're using big health data to help save lives. If that interests you, please come see us afterwards.